Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the podcast. This week is very exciting because we have a brand new course launching, which is making botanical jewellery in silver metal clay. And it's a brilliant course because it is suitable for absolute beginners, but also for people who've been making jewellery for a long time. It's just one of those really fun, creative things to do. And as the seasons are kind of changing, which we love, we're coming out of winter into spring and hopefully it won't be too long until summer. It's actually a great time of year to be going on some walks and finding some beautiful botanical elements that we can then turn into wonderful solid silver jewelry. So this course is taught by the wonderful Anna Campbell, who is here with me today to have a chat about the course, about metal clay, about botanical jewelry, and all things creativity. So welcome, Anna. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you. I love this course, so I'm really excited to talk about it because I think there's, as you mentioned, there's so much scope, there's so much that we can do with it, and it is really great for beginners. So I think yes, lots to say.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll get straight into talking about it because I think everyone knows Anna and me, hopefully by now. But if not, go back, look at some other podcast episodes because Anna is also a host on the podcast show as well and interviews guests. And if it's your first podcast, then absolutely lovely to have you here too. So what is botanical jewelry? Maybe we can start with that. And why would we want to make it out of silver metal clay?
Yeah, so I think for me, botanical jewelry is anything really that's inspired by nature. So we particularly were focusing on things like leaves and acorns, but like things like sycamore pods or even just twigs. I don't know. There's just so much that we can do. But then even things like shells and so much,
Endless.
so
Yeah.
much that I would call. I guess botanical probably relates more to kind of plants and trees and flowers, but we can open that up to the seashells and all of that kind of stuff too. And I think that metal clay is such a brilliant way of bringing this stuff to life, particularly for beginners. So I think there's so much that we can do with metal clay because it's such a versatile material. And for that reason, I think this is an exciting course.
Absolutely. And for anyone new to silver metal clay, I know we've had a lot of people in the community get involved with it this year because we had a free project, didn't we? 5 days in silver metal clay, which loads of you guys got involved with, which was awesome to see. But anyone who doesn't know about metal clay, what is it? And yeah, why is it really accessible for beginners?
Yes. Okay. So there are lots of different types of metal clay. So you can get silver, bronze, copper, gold, steel. So there are lots of different types of clay. We focus on this course on silver clay because it's the most accessible for beginners. So sometimes people say, oh, it's clay, you must need a kiln. And for some of the metal clays, that is true. But actually, for the metal clay that I use in this course, you don't. You can just use a jeweler's torch or a pitch torch. Even if you've got a creme brulee torch, you can use that to heat up the clay. So you don't necessarily need a kiln. So that's one of the things I love about this, just generally metal clay, because I think you can be a beginner and you can give it a go, and you don't have to invest hundreds and hundreds of pounds or dollars in tools. Obviously, it gets to a point where you can to start off with. It's you don't need to do that. So metal clay actually, well, let's talk about silver clay just because this is what the course is really about. But it comes in four different forms. So basically, they're all made up of 100% recycled silver particles. So if you love the kind of eco-friendly vibe and the all of that, then this is definitely for you. Um, it's mixed in with an organic plant-based binder, and that binder just kind of binds those particles together. And then there's a little bit of water. So that means we can mold it, we can shape it, we can texture it, which is what's brilliant when we're doing botanical designs. We then leave it to dry, and it's all shown in the course, of course. And we leave it to dry, and then when we're ready, we heat it up to sinter the metal particles, and that's the magic bit. So when we heat it up, that plant-based binder burns away, but you just it's not a big fire or anything. It's safe to do, but it just burns away, and then the metal particles sinter. So they form together to make a complete solid piece of silver. And it is hallmark quality silver. It isn't like silver. It's not, it is real silver. And for that reason, it's just really exciting because it just means that we can work with silver in a very different way. Many jewelers will work with sheet metal or wire. Some will do like wax casting or lost wax casting or something like that. And metal clay is just another form of silver.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really lends itself to this type of work, doesn't it? If we were to make botanical jewelry, gosh, even in any of the other mediums, it wouldn't necessarily be a beginner's project. But what's lovely is with clay, because it is kind of organic in nature. Clay it's very movable, it's very fluid, and as Anna talked about, it comes in different forms, and you can paint it and do all sorts of things. It really lends itself to this kind of work. And I've actually got some of the samples in front of me, which sorry for anybody not watching on YouTube and listening on the podcast, but I will talk about them as well and ask Anna about them. But one of them are these beautiful leaves, which are silver. I've got loads of them here. And these are actually made in a really special way, aren't they, Anna? And we actually shared this a little reel of this on Instagram recently. So you might have seen them, or you might have seen them before, these kind of painted leaves. But maybe we'll talk through some of the project. Maybe you could talk about these beautiful leaves and how they look so leaf-like. What was the process behind those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned before the silver clay comes in four different forms. So the lump clay, which is what you would think of if you were thinking about clay, it kind of comes in a lump like that. It comes in a syringe format, so you can actually kind of do quite fine work with it. It comes in a paste, which is what these were made with, and it also comes in like a flat sheet, like paper, like for doing origami and things. So with this particular project, I actually got some leaves and I painted the leaves with the silver clay paste. And that's what's amazing about this is that you can get a real leaf, go out and, like you said, have a lovely nature walk, get some real leaves, and you can paint layers of the silver clay paste on there and kind of let them dry in between. It's all in the course, but let them dry in between, and you get a nice kind of thick layer of the clay. And then that can be fired and the leaf burns away. So you're just left with that lovely impression of the veins of the leaf. And yes, it's magical because it's different every time as well. So for
Mm.
every single leaf, you can get bigger leaves, smaller leaves, ones with more veins, less veins. There's just so much that you can do with it.
Mm.
And even if you did a similar thing, it would always be a unique piece.
Yeah, I love the silver leaves. I think they come out really beautifully. And I've also seen, which I think is really interesting, some businesses where they may take like a leaf from the bouquet of a bride and turn that into solid silver. So it's like a necklace that she can have. Or I've seen like as an anniversary kind of thing, I saw someone do is to take a leaf from like a bunch of flowers that someone bought on their like first date, and then years later kind of turn it into, I mean, obviously you have to like keep the leaf and look after it, but there's loads of ways that you can kind of create business opportunities out of these kind of things too, or give your customers ideas. And I guess, we'll come back and talk about some of the other projects in a minute as well, but something we were talking about before, Anna, weren't we, is this idea that actually botanical jewelry and this kind of work is really very commercially viable as well. It's the kind of stuff that a lot of people want to buy. We're all very drawn to nature. And so I think, with relatively like little experience needed as a jeweler, you can start making and selling with this kind of projects.
Yes, and I mean these can be personalized. I love those ideas and it's gorgeous, but you can even do personalizing with like dates and letter stamps and actually stamping into the silver as well. So as always, there's just so many different options. There's so much we can do, and I just love that.
Absolutely. Then I've also got here a little acorn, which turned into a silver acorn. We love it, using a mold. So perhaps we can talk a little bit about mold making, because that's quite featured in the course as well. And yeah, turning 3D objects. Well, I guess leaves are 3D, but they're kind of
Yeah.
2D-ish. But more 3D objects into kind of charms and in solid silver, which is really cool.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that I particularly love about metal clay as a medium because it is really easy to do. You know, as I say, this is a beginner's course. You don't necessarily have to have done any type of you could have done. You may have done some other types of jewelry making before, but you don't have to have. And I just love how because the clay is like clay, it's squishy. You know, we can just press it into molds, but we can take one step further from that and actually make our own molds. So on the course, I teach you how to make your own molds, how to cure the molds, and then how to kind of press the silver in there. And I think obviously there are other ways of kind of casting and sand casting and that kind of thing, but I think it is much more advanced technique. And you know, you're really having to melt the silver really, really hot and then pour it in really quickly. And it's not as easy, I would say, as this, where we can just make our own little molds and then we just press the silver into the molds and that's that. And it's again, it's just such a lovely thing to be able to do. And those are then reusable. You know, that acorn mold we could make many of them, and that's really good again for business purposes because it means that we can photograph a piece and make it, and then if we wanted to remake it, we've got the mold. It's very easy and quick to do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much you can do with this course. I got all the samples out before because I got excited. But even like one of the things I love that Anna made on the course is this flower. So it's like a daisy. Again, sorry, people who can't see, but you can check it out on YouTube. We've got a YouTube podcast channel now. It's very
Yeah.
exciting. Go and check it out if you haven't already. All the podcasts are on there if you want to see our beautiful faces as well as the jewelry. So, that taking a mold of a flower, which is quite different to do versus taking a mold of something quite substantial, like solid, and turning that into, I mean, you can't see it that well actually on my screen, but it looks really cool in real life. You're just gonna have to trust me. And then kind of
Yeah,
using it for a
I,
sulfur to
I
pass
think that's an interesting one to do, because when you have very fine petals, it can be difficult. Like if you were trying to kind of hand make one, which might be a thing you could do, it's when you're doing like little fine petals and sticking them on, it can be really, really difficult. But when we then can, put a real flower into a mold and make a nice impression of that flower, we can then once again press the silver into the mold and create whatever we want to create with that.
it.
And so again, it's just really very accessible to do, a really great project for us, for beginners.
Yeah, and you cover a lot in the course. It's quite in depth and involved, and also love. I could just show samples all day, but I might leave this as the last one. But this little twig, it's like a little silver twig. How cute is that? So Mother Nature is so beautiful already, and it's brilliant to be able to kind of put those into solid silver pieces. And there's obviously different directions you can take this kind of stuff. Anna also talks about using just the texture, so like the texture of the leaf or a texture of bark, and how we can use that in our jewelry. So I think it's going to give lots of people ideas and kind of get their creative juices flowing.
Yes, I mean, metal clay is fantastic for that. A few years ago, I did 100-day project where I did 100 different textures on one piece of jewelry, and I did I did it by weeks. I did a botanical week, and that was probably my favorite. And kind of being able to just get some grasses and roll them into the clay, or even kind of create your own little, I call them like little vignettes with a grass and then a little flower, and then you can create your own little stories, as it were, from that. And then just can keep going and add birthstones, and I don't know, all kinds of different amazing things for your own designs, for yourself, for gifts. But as you mentioned, such a great idea for selling jewelry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely go and check out the course. It's also on pre-sale at the moment. So the course is actually out next week, Friday. But it is available to buy now and it is 50% off. So if you buy it before the course launches on Friday, you will get 50% off. So we highly encourage you to buy it before then. So go and check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes. Go ahead and sign up, get involved. There's also a tool and material list so you can kind of get ordering your clay. You don't need a lot of things, as Anna said, but we'll let you know the things that you do need. Start going out on some beautiful walks and collecting some botanical things. Good for every part of our soul, I think that stuff is. And then
And I
we'd
think
love
as
to
well,
see.
you can go out and collect things, but also I've been known to just take a little bit of the molding compound and just put it on like the bark of a tree or something and use that as a texture. And you do look a bit strange standing around waiting for it to dry.
Standing up for
Whilst you're
waiting for it
doing
to
that.
dry. Yeah.
But I live very near a botanic gardens, and I just love having that opportunity of wandering about and just seeing what's there. I think once you do this course, you'll probably see the world very differently because you're going to start to see all the different textures and different shapes, and it's a very creative way of looking at the world, I think. So.
Absolutely. It's a lovely thing to do. And I think this is a really nice one for jewelers who've perhaps been metalsmiths for a long time as well, but would really love to explore metal clay because this is the kind of thing that would be really difficult to do with sheet metal, and would take a long time with wax carving as well. And it's something you could combine with your traditional skills too. So it's a lovely one all round.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, once it's silver, and we could do all the same things as we could do with silver. So hammering and soldering and filing, everything is just the same. So yes, as you say, it really lends itself. If you love that kind of botanical look or the kind of nature-inspired jewelry, it's definitely one to check out and add to your repertoire of skills.
Absolutely. And we'd love to see what you guys make on this course. So as always, make sure you come and share with us on social media, on Instagram, tag us at Jewelers Academy or inside our Facebook group. It'd be really lovely to share it with the whole community. It's a lovely community in there. If you're not already in there, definitely get involved because it's just such a lovely space online for jewelers to connect and everyone's super friendly, which we love. So Anna, thank you so much for coming and sharing about the course. Thank you for doing the course. And then thanks for coming and sharing about it. And if people want to connect with you online, where is the best place for them to come and say hi and, just congratulate you on the program and on being on the podcast and all those good things?
Yes, thank you. I think probably the place I hang out the most is on Instagram. So I'm at Jewellery School Scott on Instagram. So that is the best place to pop along and just I'd love you to tag like Jewelers Academy and maybe me as well if you make anything because we would absolutely love to see where you take the ideas from this course because I feel like there's so many different directions you could take this in.
Absolutely. Brilliant. All right. Well, Anna, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you back here next week for another episode of the podcast. Until then, bye for now.